The other team another team that has cash issues, but this is cap issues, are the Jacksonville Jaguars, Jason. They cut a bunch of guys last week to create, I think, about $27 or so million of space. I think they have 30 currently. And we heard early that Nick Foles was it was a done deal. What's happening with Jacksonville and their quarterback situation?
I haven't heard it quite as strong as the way some people have reported it. That's the most likely destination, and there's mutual interest. But Tom Coughlin has some things working in his favor here, and I'm told they're a little bit of a house divided as to exactly how to proceed at the quarterback position based on different players at different price points. So why do we have to give Nick Foles $20 million right now? Who are we competing with? And if that's where his threshold is, then is Tyrod Taylor at 8 for 1 year make more sense? Do we think we can get a quarterback at 7 or move from 7 to 3 if we have conviction about, say, Haskins at Ohio State? Could we go get Teddy Bridgewater for a year or two at a much cheaper rate? I don't know, 2 years, $20 million with a lot of upside incentives built in if he starts to play like he did before the injury. So I don't think it's a slam dunk, as you would think, and I think there's a lot of pressure on Nick Foles' agents to deliver. They had $20 million in their pocket. They had that option, and they gave away $2 million to get out of it, and the franchise tag wasn't going to happen. So I'm incredibly interested to see how much hardball the Jaguars play, because to your initial point, guys, they did have a terrible cap situation, and they've given themselves a little bit of wiggle room with the moves they made, but they should be fighting for every penny, cash and cap, right now, because they're trying to keep something together that I would have torn down. So I don't know where else Nick Foles is going, but I certainly know some other options that the Jags could have.
Hey, listen, it's a great time of year. Names flying off the board. Teams trying to get better. Good teams trying to stay there. Money flying everywhere. We got our guy, Jason La Canfora, CBS Sports NFL Insider, breaking it down for us here on Tiki and Tierney.
Hey, JLC, BT and I were just talking about this question, and he posed it to me. I don't have a legit answer or a solid answer for us. I'm going to ask you. Why are the Ravens letting C.J. Mosley go into free agency? Is the number too big, or is there something that we should be concerned about?
No, they love everything about him, and love him as a human being, love him as a leader, love him as sort of he and Eric Weddle were the sort of the central nervous system of that defense. He's a tackling machine, incredibly stout in the run game, but this is a passing league, and he has trouble covering running backs in the flat. And when they go zone and do anything Tampa 2-ish, teams know you run that tight end out on him, and you're going to find a lot of joy in the seam. And they have 2 young linebackers they really like. It's a position where traditionally they've continued to find value. And, frankly, they've let linebackers go over the years, Jamie Sharper, Edgerton Hartwell, Dalius Thomas. And generally they don't ever fare nearly as well the other places they did with the Ravens. And the Ravens get the best years out of them really cheap. They'd be willing to make C.J. Mosley one of the highest-paid linebackers in the league. They're just not willing to pay him $15, $16 million a year, knowing what they know about some of his liabilities in coverage. So I don't see them winning a bidding war for his services, and that's money they could redistribute elsewhere, particularly to the edge, where they're probably going to lose Terrell Suggs. They need help at pass rush, and that's not what they get from C.J. Mosley.
Okay, that's really good intel, and that answers the question. But we also know the Ravens are an astute franchise. We know the Redskins are not. So you talk about the inability to defend the pass. Listen, Tiki and I both like Landon Collins, but we watch him every week with the Giants, and anything behind him, he's not average. He's below average. So can you explain to me, except maybe just the Redskins being the Redskins, how do they shower him with $45 million guaranteed, 80+ on a contract? He can't defend the pass.
Yeah, I want to see. This is another one where I'm going to – some of these guarantees, personally, I'm not going out there until I see the fine print of the contract. This may turn out to be one of those instances where the fine print tells you that it's really a 3-year contract, at a whole lot less than $84 million. But regardless, they've been chasing safeties for a while, DJ Swearinger, and then they make the trade for HaHa Clinton Dix at a weird time for them as a franchise because they didn't look like they were going to a Super Bowl by any stretch of the imagination. So why are they buyers for a guy who's a prospective free agent? They obviously value the player. They have they're pretty close to putting together an all-Crimson Tide defense. They're all about the Alabama players to the point where they made that Reuben Foster waiver claim that no one else in the league saw coming. They feel like there's a certain chemistry between all these guys, and they're very bought into that idea. But even when we see the onion peeled back and we see the exact numbers on this thing, I'm with you. It's a lot of money to play a thumper who doesn't affect the ball in the air as much as you would like for the money you have to pay him. Saying all that, though, for the Giants being where they were, and this, let's win one more for the Gipper with Eli mode, I still don't let him walk. I give him the 11 for one. I just because I don't think the Giants have, enough playmaker. Not that I'm going to call him a playmaker, but just enough potential blue chip players. So that whole one is weird.
Agreed. This isn't weird, but it's an interesting trend. Let's get to the Detroit Lions a little bit here. Obviously, great familiarity with Matt Patricia. Trey Flowers, he's getting big money, at least report. You had this, actually. You had this on Twitter. I'll read this for our audience. Can confirm Trey Flowers will sign with Detroit. Dolphins were also pushing. Deals worth in the range of $17 to $18 million. Listen, I like Trey Flowers. He's going to get you about 8-9 sacks. In terms of projecting remaining upside, is he a completely finished product? Or
no, I mean, look, he's a young guy. Young guys who flash pass rush, who hit the market without any character issues, without any injury issues, are gonna crush it. I kind of liken it a little bit to Olivier Vernon a few years ago. And I think that's where this money's going to come in, similar to where he's a guy who, he was pushing towards double-digit sacks, but by no means was, a guy who you were banking on 12 to 16 a year, but. He had that situation with the Dolphins, and he ends up with the Giants on a contract that a few years later they're trying to get out of. But look, Matt Patricia, those guys are a little bit desperate there now. He's a defensive coach who had issues all over his defense. This is a player he knows and coached in New England. It's very obvious the Lions are going back to players, Amendola and others who fit their culture and they know about them. And they paid Ziggy Ansah a lot of money the last couple of years, and he's been hurt more than he's played. So, Trey Flowers has been available. This one's not a surprise. All the Belichick clone teams were in on Trey Flowers.
This information's out. I don't want the segment to end. I really hope your phone doesn't ring, although if it doesn't, that means the tweets will stop. Because
I let a call go, but I'm going to have to call this guy back. I'm sorry.
I did hear that. Jason La Canfora, CBS Sports NFL Insider, is with us on Tiki and Tierney.
Before you go take that call, Jason, what Odell Beckham, likelihood of him getting traded is?
Possible. I can't put a number on it, but it's certainly not impossible. I continue to hear the Giants are much more amenable to this than what they're saying publicly, understandably so, and that there's a deal to be done there, a monster deal, not an Antonio Brown deal, an old school Roy Williams deal plus something else. But that's if somebody's willing to do that, maybe San Francisco. I've heard the most about them in terms of intent, especially now that the Raiders have got Antonio Brown. They're out. Maybe the Browns. But would I be surprised if he was traded before the draft? No. I certainly wouldn't be shocked.
Neither would I. 45 seconds. You got that much for us, or you got to bounce?
Sure.
Okay. Anthony Barr, where do you think he winds up?
Whew. Anthony Barr could be with the Jets, could be with San Francisco. Maybe even the Colts, any of those teams that have really been in on guys who they think could give them a pass rush. At the end of the day, though, if you made me throw one dart, I'd throw it in the Jets' direction.
Okay, I would take that. What about Earl Thomas? Go to Dallas?
I don't think so.
Really?
Not unless his price tag comes down. I don't think so at this point.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Wow. Is Sue? What kind of value Sue still have?
I think he'll do. I think Ndamukong Suh will do very well. I think he'll look at that Malik Jackson deal and know he's going to do better than that. I don't see Ndamukong Suh on a one-year deal this time around. I'll put it that way.